Tell us a little bit about you and TeamFluence, what it does, and how somebody would know that they would benefit from TeamFluence.
I love this question. So TeamFluence was born out of my own pain. I was a startup founder and I was trying to find product market fit and message market fit. And I was posting on LinkedIn every day. We have built something that people love, but nobody was willing to pay for it. So quite a painful situation. And I was posting to LinkedIn every day. And then I would share the link to the post with my team, 6 people at the time. And then in our Slack channel and go, hey team, I just posted this. Can you please comment, share, like, give it some love? And then I checked back at 4 p.m. in the afternoon and it had like 2 likes. And I thought to myself, those little, I ain't gonna say it, but I'm paying them. We are burning my savings here. Why is this so hard? Like, how did I not explain that they're supposed to click like? And then I thought about this some more. And the first conclusion was, I'm paying them. Anything I post should have 6 likes. It's like automatically. If it's not, then I'm doing something wrong. And I realized what I'm doing wrong is I'm not managing it, and I'm not managing it because I cannot see it. And so that night I sat down and I wrote a little Chrome extension that would just navigate, to LinkedIn slash dashboard and grab the 4 vitals, like how many followers do you have, how many search appearances you had, how many impressions, and so forth. Store all this, send this into a database, create a little dashboard with charts, and then called in my team into a Zoom meeting next day. We are remote, and said, look, this is EW with all their followers and impressions and search appearances. This is us together and all our followers, and let's play this as a team sport. Don't let me play this in single player mode. And it instantly changed like hearts and minds. And I also shared a screenshot of this in the Slack community. And the same day, 4 or 5 people reached out to me and said, "Hey, Stephen, I saw your little LinkedIn dashboard. Can I have that too?" And my my answer my answer was no, because I don't know how to give it to you. Like, let me email you the zip file, unpack it. It's from a total stranger, but trust me, I'm gonna call you on the phone and step you through. That was that shit crazy. The first 5 installs, but very quickly we had the first paying customers. I remember the first person saying after the install on the phone saying, "Okay, how much do I owe you?" And I didn't have an answer, so I said $99. And he went like, "Per month?" I said, "No, no, 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 per year." And it was like the first money we made, and we don't have that prices anymore. But from there we started, and now we have a tool that does 3 things. Number one, it helps teams to build a network, and I can elaborate on this why this matters some more. Build a network, create visibility in that network, and then harvest this network into active leads with which you start conversations that hopefully end into a deal making.
You're the CEO of TeamFluence. What different roles do you have in your company right now? About how big are you?
Well, we are 6.5 people, 7, and it's split up in there is marketing, which is a nice word for lead generation. We're a SaaS company. SaaS is simple. You need a certain amount of web visitors that convert into trials or demo calls that convert into paying users, and then you need to keep those and keep your churn. It's really simple on the surface, but we have set up our responsibilities. We don't have departments, but we have ownership, and so there is an ownership of somebody who's overseeing and who's accountable for, do we get enough people on the website, be it through LinkedIn posts, be it through pay-per-click campaigns, whatever, what have you. There's 20 something typical ways of getting people to a website. Then we have somebody in charge of, well, we need to make those people click on start a trial or click on book a demo call. That happens to be me. Then we need those people to convert into demo calls or into paid trials. We still call this sales. So we have somebody overseeing sales. Actually, a good friend with whom I share a long history of doing sales together is doing this. And then we make sure that those people are successful with our tool. And we have a person for that. And behind that is a sometimes underestimated profit center, and that's the people who build the product, the software developers that actually take part in every marketing meeting and in every sales meeting, because I want them to understand exactly with what sales and marketing and customer success is struggling so that they can answer our questions and wishful thinkings. They can stop us right in the tracks. Like, no, this we cannot build, but we can do this. So the more brains I have on each step of that journey from every part of the company, the better I think the solutions are.
That is pretty unusual in my experience, but I love it because I do think there is a lot of value to be had in letting everyone see how the business operates and letting customer feedback and sales feedback and customer support feedback, all of that trickle back to the people who are in charge of the product. And ultimately, that's usually the software developers, especially in a bootstrapped company. How did you arrive at involving the developers in these sales and marketing conversations? Did that
Well,
seem intuitive to you or
I love that question. To begin with, I used to be a full stack developer. I'm not writing production code anymore. I try not to. They keep me from doing it, but I can still have that, that 19-inch conversation with them about which database we should use, and that's helpful. I'm overseeing everything, but mostly I try to oversee marketing and product, which is, in my understanding, deeply interwoven because marketing is what you promise and product is what you deliver, and that ideally should be you know play together. I come to this from painful experience. I was a sales leader in a SaaS company at some point in my life, and me and my sales team, we brought in roughly 2,000 B2B customers over the course of 4 and 5 years, of which, when I left, 200 were left. So we lost 90%. And looking, I painfully realized that from day one, we tried to influence product. We tried to make product listen to us. And we were always shielded from product. There was this divide. And, we are both old enough to remember that this used to be industrial standard. Coders don't talk to marketing people because they don't like each other. Like the marketing people think that coders are nerds and socially awkward. And coders think that marketing people are wrestlers. I'm trying not to cause a beat here. Um, and this is just childish. In the end, we all serve to solve a problem of the customer, be it in explaining the problem or being in technically solving it. But it's like a doctor and the tools that a doctor uses. So we need to play it together. And when I left that company, my really hard resolve was whenever I start my next startup, I'll make sure that product is a customer facing department. It's not the part that is burning the money. It should be the part that is making the money.
I agree with that philosophy. I think there have been many disasters in my engineering career where we were told to do one thing and we did it, and then we learned that, oh no, we misunderstood, or our product manager misunderstood because they maybe weren't talking to the customers directly either.
Yeah.
And so we built the wrong thing for the market, wrong thing for the customer. And that is an incredibly expensive and painful
I think
experience.
it's 2025. I can expect from a developer in 2025 that being able to do a customer interview and being able to talk to customers and being able to talk to marketing people and sales people and customer success people and understand their needs is part of the job description. It's not enough to know Python. You need to speak human. This is a part of the job description. And I recently had a conversation with some other founders, and the question that was discussed was, I have a software developer who has a complicated personality, and I don't really know. But no, you don't have to put up with this. Fire that person. It's 2025. I can expect from a programmer, from an engineer, that they're socially skilled enough to get along with their peers. And they are not some gurus anymore. There are enough, especially with the AI already, there is enough coding power out there that I can expect them to be socially acceptable and be able to talk to people.
I agree. I think it's especially important for small startups to pick people who are more broad in their business knowledge and abilities beyond just being a programmer. It's fine to
And
be
this goes both ways. I can expect my salespeople to have basic technical knowledge and be willing to listen to engineers and try to understand what they're explaining. We need to be more inter-skilled these days when we sell highly complex technical products.
exactly, especially in such a small early stage in a business. You need to have people who are broader in their skills and can get along, can collaborate. It's not like a giant 100,000 person company where you can silo off people who are like, oh, all they can do is algorithms. Don't try to talk to them. He's the algorithm guy. And they
Yeah,
can be in
yeah,
the corner of the building,
yeah.
right? You can do
And
that when you have 100,000 people, but not when you have 6, 10 people.
I think it also has to do with the customer being less and less willing to put up with a technical load. I think B2B customers are expecting B2B software to work the same way Netflix or Spotify works. It's a 5 minute setup and then it works out of the box. That's very different to, the 90s where you had a 18-month implementation phase where only engineers were on premise doing magical things. So the expectation from the customer side is different. They expect everything to work. And if we want to deliver that, then we need to understand the customer on every level of our value chain. And we need to each other, between departments.
Agreed. So, how do you find people like that when you're interviewing, when you're posting a job? How do you find if somebody is a good match for you that way?
I'm probably not very good at this. So the current team that I have are people that I, for the most part, met personally at some point. So my early hires were all people with whom I had a shared history of working in different projects, companies, and prior. So I knew they were good hires. I had on and off success with remote hires with people I never met. Just recently, we went through something very disturbing. We just were hiring for another software engineer, and from the 60 something candidates, of 50%, maybe, maybe 30%, who applied with an, I don't know how to say this, applied with a V that indicates European based, we were hiring from European time zones, anything between Baltic and Portugal, more or less, and, Greenland to Turkey. But about half, one third to one half of them were sending in applications with European sounding names, Yannick Kowalski, this type of Michael Hansen, pretending to be in Denmark or in Warsaw or in some place. And then into the interview came an Asian person, clearly not from that country, but being able to even pronounce the name of the city which they pretend to live for the past 6 years.
Huh.
Um, and answering our questions, you could tell from the eyes from some chat GPT that is listening to the interview, just reading the answers from the screen. Even if confronted with, you're not Yannick Kowalski, your father is not a German because you don't speak a single word German, can't even pronounce it. Where are you? Why are you doing this? They stick to this. And in the end, we suspect this is some work camps and forced labor in China or North Korea. And we are confronted here with some sort of slavery. So that was highly disturbing. And I've never seen something in my career before. And I heard from other founders that, that they hired somebody even local. And then after a couple of weeks, another job.
Right.
Uh, Hiring for remote with the rise of AI is becoming increasingly difficult. How do I deal with this? Well, I try to be as demanding as I can so that you cannot run another job. And we try to be personal enough so that we make up for the distance and for the disconnect that remote work brings into the work life.
When you onboard someone, how does that process go? Regardless of whether they're remote or local, how do you onboard someone?
Well, this is one of the things that I'm contemplating how to improve. Like right now, we have a notion document with a checklist. Of course, that's a technical onboarding. Like, do they have an email account? Do they have a Slack? Can they access our CRM? Things like this. So that's one part. But I think the way forward is to have something like a 30, 60, 90-day expectations framework that you share on day one and say, look, here are your tools. Here is what I expect after 30 days, after 60 days, after 90 days. And then come to an agreement, can be adjusted, can be discussed, but then come to an agreement that this is what we agree on and this is what we're going to execute on. And I think this, especially, I suffer from being too nice and uh, taking too long to separate from somebody, hanging on too long to, I can make this work. So I think 30, 60, 90-day plan is something that will help me accountable even more than the new hire to what I was expecting when I hired that person, and then make a judgment how much I'm reeling off or how much is it overperforming. To just recall those were my expectations when I said you have the job.
Do you think you'll discuss this in interviews in the future? Do you think you'll actually tell candidates that you're going to have a plan and give them kind of an outline of what your expectations are on boarding?
Yeah. So I think that when you're interviewing, both sides are interviewing. Like they're interviewing for a job, and we are interviewing as a team that want them to become a member. And the key here is brutal transparency. I'm also planning on publishing somewhere on our website, and at least maybe it's full formula and maybe indication of how much everybody's making here, because I think there are more important things to discuss during a job interview than salary and compensation. That could be like, I can just put this on my website. Say, those are the factors. This is how we calculate this. This is what you can expect. And then it's there. I don't have to discuss it. And now we can discuss culture, and we can discuss market, and we can discuss expectations and skills, and all those things that are so crucial for the successful together. So that yes, that I think those things should be very upfront about those things.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially the salary part because, you know, small startups can't pay like Google, and
Yeah,
you may as well get the people out of the way, pre-screen the people who expect to have a, Google, Apple, Netflix type salary because bootstrappers can't pay that way, not in cash, maybe equity. But I think, yeah, I think that's a good
yeah.
idea.
I think equity is more important. It's more expensive than cash if you're successful. So I'm not a big fan of using equity as. But you're right. Bootstrap companies cannot do this, but if successful, they can pay even a lot more than the ceiling is a lot higher. Think of a company like Retention that is doing over 20 million with, I think, 6 or 8 people. don't know what Adam Robinson is paying his people, but there would be enough to pay them royally. Um, and then, you know, you get to do things that you don't get to do in a corporate environment, meaning everything.
That's right, and you get to
Yeah,
not do things that you'd be expected to do, like
yeah.
attend, lots of boring meetings. You won't have to do that in most startups.
And there won't be a back to the office because there was no in the office in the first place.
That is that is true. Yeah, most people, I think, in having 6 to 8 people, they're not yet looking to pay rent on a office space.
I
Oh,
do think that in person matters a lot, but I think you can organize two, three, four, even four offsites a year and fly everybody in and pay a hotel for a week or whatever. And you still have less cost than you would have for a physical office.
certainly. Yeah, office space is not cheap, not cheap at all. How often do you do that right now?
We've done this twice so far, and I'm lucky that one of my teammates is in the same city, so we share a co-working space. Uh, but we should do this more often.
I'm curious, since you're largely remote, how often do you meet with your teams? What's the daily schedule look like for your teams?
Yeah, we are experimenting with this. We are also in different time zones. We have people in South America, we have people in Europe. So there's a couple of hours, not very challenging. We don't have like people in Australia or something, but still, there's a couple of hours difference. So what we do is we have one big weekly all hands team meeting, EOS type L10 meeting, if that rings a bell. And then we have daily check-ins at noon European time. That's morning for the folks over in South America. So they are having a coffee while we have, well, everybody brings lunch. And we just quickly check in. And the rule is if you have uh, this one thing that you want to get done today, then share it with the team. Um, and we put it into a notion table. And they're like, John wanted to finish this today. And then tomorrow, we'll look at it and say, John, how did it go? And then you can go like, ah, I didn't get around to do this. Or, yes, I did it. Or, I couldn't do it because you, Stephen, didn't deliver this. And you blocked me. Oh, okay, sorry. But we have this quick check-in where what is it that's on your mind today? It's not a to-do list. It's not a stand-up. We call it the daily focus. So we have this um,
Is that
on your.
formal or more of a conversation?
I like to start it with how everybody's doing. Like, are you optimistic today? Are you a little bit down today? What's the weather over in Portugal? How's the summer going in South America? Well, it's freezing cold over here, and really, that is enough to just share how we feel and how the day is going. Um, and then we really go round robin. What's your focus of the day? And then next, next, next. And then if there's anything that happened, big closings, big losses, a sensational podcast we listen to that everybody should listen to, or great book that we recommend or something. This type of chat, and then we round it up. It's usually 30 minutes, 45 minutes top, unless something heavy is in the room that needs solved. But we try to keep it conversational. On weekly rotation, we have a second all hands focus meeting on Thursdays where we have this four departments, if you will: marketing, sales, customer success, product, and we rotate through this so that the owner of each of those topics, of these responsibilities, has an opportunity to pull in the team and go like, look, I'm doing marketing. I have this problem that I want to share with you, or I'm having this idea and I want to have your feedback. So that they get like attention from all of the team in regard to their responsibility, and they can pull it off. So, no, no, I'm good. I don't need this week. Fine, then everybody just goes back to work. Um, or they can pull in the troops and go like, here, I'm having this. I'm not making progress. What can I do? And this is separated from our Monday overall more strategic, more hands-on, where they can just share with the team what they're working on and how that is going.
So you engage the team a lot as a group.
Yeah, yeah. I believe that, and I'm trying to tell my team that the distance can be reduced or overcome by over communicating. Like share more on Slack, comment more on no single comments, tell everybody what you're working on, and like make noise.
Do you feel like that increases kind of the collaboration across the different responsibilities in the company?
I think it builds trust,
Builds trust.
and trust is the material that the bridges are built of. If if I work on something and I struggle, then it it requires trust that I reach out to somebody on the other side of the planet that I've maybe never met personally. And they're like, I don't know how to do this. Can you help me? And if you shy away from this because you don't know the person, you're afraid to admit that you're not making progress, or you're afraid to look stupid or something, then that's very counterproductive. And I think the remedy here is that they know each other and that there's like no shame atmosphere, in at least in the core team.
I definitely have seen, even in surprisingly small organizations, where there is a lack of trust because some people don't know what other people are doing, and so they kind of assume that they're not doing anything because they don't have the visibility, right? And that can lead to gossip and resentment and stuff just because a coder doesn't know what the sales guy is doing, or the sales guy doesn't know what the marketing person is doing because they've kind of siloed off that stuff. And maybe from their perspective, like, hey, there aren't any results, but that doesn't mean there isn't work going on. So I can see how this can help with that aspect as well, that nobody has an excuse for not being aware of what everybody else is working on and how they're contributing. And, if they have feedback, it sounds like they're welcome to give that feedback.
I once went, by the way, my colleague who sits on the other side of the table organized this. I went to a management training with my sales team up in the German Alps, in the mountains, and they did an interesting exercise with us. First of all, they took groups into the forest and taught us a skill, but the rest of the team didn't know what they taught us. So then they led us into the forest, and there was like an abyss, and we were supposed to build a rope from over this abyss. And I was totally upset about what the others are doing and why stuff is already because, and there's, it, I got it got explained afterwards, but A, I didn't know who was capable of doing what. I didn't know their skills. And B, I didn't tell them what I was doing. They were on the other side, and I didn't yell over the other side, I'm doing this. I was just like expecting them to know what to deliver. And then I reflected on this for a long time. And I understood how important it is that I share with my team over and over and over what I'm doing and what I need for that. And even if if they feel like he said it 10 times, well, that's better than if he didn't say it. Because only if they know what I'm working on and what I need and what I'm doing, only then can they be supportive and help and think with me. And the other alternative is that I'm doing something I'm not sharing, and then I'm constantly frustrated with why are they not delivering what I need? Why are they blocking me? Why is this not done? Why is that not done? Because I haven't told them. It's that simple. And in this remote constellation, we lack those water cooler conversations, this unstructured, where we casually talk about something and develop ideas. And this is already something that's lacking. And if you don't over communicate what you're doing and what your needs are, then, well, you will be disappointed.
Yeah, that's true. Like the remote work, there's a huge abyss between you and your colleagues. So,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, that
yeah.
makes sense.
It worked out. We did the rope bridge, and everybody went over the edge, so, and everybody survived.
That's a really incredible exercise. That
Very good.
is amazing. That really must be, that I mean, that leaves an impression, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah, that's nice.
Along these lines, when you're, say, planning a new feature for your product or maybe a new marketing campaign or something like that, something that's more of a long-term project, how do you go about kind of planning and managing that project? Would that be the kind of the topic owner that plans and manages it? How does that all work?
It sounds so simple, but I'm figuring it out, man. Every day I'm learning something. I, just today I said to my team that good writing requires thinking, and the result of a thought process is good writing. So I I'm increasingly demanding from my team that before they start doing something, that they plan it and that they write down their thoughts. I think Notion or any other tool that you use for documenting this is a fantastic opportunity to write down your thoughts and share them synchronously with your team. And we have all those tools, the Miro boards, the Figma boards, the Notions, and so forth, to write down your thoughts, document your thoughts, and share your thoughts with others before you get to work. It hones your thought process. B, it keeps you accountable for, oh, you haven't thought about this. You didn't document that. Well, let's fix it now. But for the future, we know we need to not forget to do this or involve that person. So that makes that part better. And I'm trying to synchronize everyone in, in those simple frameworks like the ICE framework to prioritize. Because especially if you work remote, which means that you're alone somewhere at home. Well, you could do this, you could do that. I could research influencers. I could look up prices for B2C campaigns, or maybe some keyword research. And then the week goes by and you've done a million things, but there's like nothing to account for. So if you write all these possibilities down, everything starts with a list, and then prioritize it using a framework like ICE. There are many out there. ICE is impact, your confidence in this being a success, and the effort you need to put in just multiplies. Rate it on a scale from 1 to 10 and multiply it. And you come up with a number. Whenever we do this, and whenever I do this myself, I'm quite often surprised what pops up to be the number one priority that I didn't expect. So we should just do this as a side project, but no, it turns out it has the highest impact. It's easy to do, and we are confident that we can do this. And suddenly it's on number one, and I had it just as number 10. This is a tool that I try to establish, and write write down stuff.
So, I think this is pretty interesting and something that I think many j supervisors or managers who are just starting out don't realize that you need to train the people that work for you, and so you train them on this ICE
Mhm.
prioritization method, which is a great tool, and by training them on this method, they have a new tool they can use to basically meet your expectations, right? And hopefully get something more done.
And
But if
and
you and if you didn't do that, right, you wouldn't have necessarily a common language for discussing the prioritization, right? Now, everybody on your team, because you train them in this, you kind of have a common language. Just like a lot of companies have their own little acronyms that they use internally. This is like a
mhm.
tool that you all share, which is kind of amazing for getting work done as a team.
Yes, and it also gives them an understanding on how I think and how their peers think, so that they can live up to to the expectations of their peers.
Right. And you mentioned earlier about wanting to hold on to employees longer and avoid firing them. So how does that work? When do you start noticing that an employee isn't meeting expectations? How does that happen? Is it because somebody's committed to something and they repeatedly miss that? or is it more subtle?
Yeah, I love that question. Thanks for asking this. There are some books that you read where you think like, "Oh, I didn't read this 20 years earlier." Sometimes because the book wasn't around, but I think in this case it was. I read Radical Candor, and by reading it, I thought back, on almost 35 years of professional experience, and how many times I just read somebody on for way too long. And by doing so, I not only harmed me and my business or the business I was working for, I also harmed that person, because nobody wants to suck at their job. And if you provide all the support you can help somebody good at their job, and if they still suck, maybe it's the wrong job. So by being candid about this and addressing it and saying, look, this is the expectation. You're not living up to this. Maybe this is not a good job. Maybe you should find a different job. You're helping that person. And you're harming all the peers because, everybody can tell that you're increasingly lowering your expectation at that person, and they're under delivering and they're accepting poor results, and everybody is, fixing it for them. And nothing hits motivation more than witnessing that this one person is being dragged along, and he's unhappy, the team's unhappy, you're unhappy. Why? And like, there is no point in doing this. And I didn't think about this the way I do today. And, and the book changed my way of paying attention to those early signs. And I think one of the early signs is if I do what they're supposed to do. That can happen, from time to time. I cover for others, other cover for me, that's fine. But if you notice that you spend more time with fixing or covering for somebody than it would take to do it yourself, uh, then what's the point? And another thing that I think I learned this recently. As a founder, I have one certain skill, and I think this is true for all founders. We see things that others don't see, which means that if only I have that curse, not curse, superpower, it's more like a curse, then I should be doing founder level thinking tasks. And those are tasks that where the result of your thought process has a high impact, and where you have to make decisions with very incomplete information. Everything else that doesn't require this to see things that others don't see, that don't require to make quick decisions or decisions with very big impact with incomplete information, should not be done by me as a founder. And if that person, if those people are not able to take that over, if I find myself again and again in doing tasks where I have to make decisions with little impact on more or less complete information, then I'm doing non-founder tasks, and that's not the point of hiring people.
Yeah, I think this is a great point. The reason you hire people as a founder is to free up your time for more important activities, higher priority activities, activities that only you can do. And if the people are taking more time to manage than they free up with their work, then it's not working out for you as a founder. And the other point is, which I think is a pattern across many of the companies I've worked with, is they hesitate to fire someone and they hesitate to fire someone. They're like, ah, man, this person's nice, everybody likes him, but they finally like, okay, they got to go, and they fire the person, and then what they often discover is that everybody else in the company is relieved because they
Yeah,
knew it was going to happen, and even though they
yeah,
might have liked the person as a person, they kind of were suffering watching this person struggle in the role, or
mm,
they were discouraged, right? Because it's like, I don't know, it's like having, like, a broken window in the office or something that's obviously wrong. It's not motivational to see somebody struggle
yeah.
in their role and not get better.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I just when I was listening to you, there's another observation. Sometimes when I give out a task, there are two types of people: people who make the task bigger and people who make the task smaller. Like I ask somebody to do something, and they come back with a slide presentation how they analyze the problem, and now it's bigger. Or I outsourced a task, and then it's just done. They made the task smaller, and um, I think we should watch out for people who make problems smaller and not bigger.
Yeah.
I
And
understand why they do this because the 20 slide presentation is supposed to impress me, and it's no, you're not making yourself more important, but making the problem that you're solving bigger.
I think this is kind of a big company mentality that sometimes people need to unlearn when they join a startup. It's not really about the time people have talking in front of other people or, showing off or something like that at a startup,
Yeah.
right? It's more about, oh, we got this problem fixed, or we built a tool that will fix this problem in the future forever and it'll only take you
Yeah.
5 seconds, which is even
Yeah.
better, right?
Just get it up, get it out of this place.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's no value to spending more time on a problem than it takes, but there's tons of value to solve a problem and all future problems that are similar to that problem. It's great.
Mm.
That's
Yeah,
leverage.
fully agree.
I'm curious, so do you meet one-on-one with your employees? And if so, how often do you do that, and kind of how does that work?
Yeah, we do this. I would phrase it differently. My team members get to meet with me. It's their meeting, not my meeting. And that's an important distinction because I'm not reviewing them. It's more like they're reviewing me. So I have a rotation, I think bi-weekly, yeah, bi-weekly. I take 45 minutes for one-on-ones. It's called Thanks for Asking. And there's just one rule. Please send in a number of things that you want to discuss um, by Tuesday evening. And then Wednesdays we go into this one-on-ones, so 45 minutes. It can be a little bit longer, where they get my attention in a one-on-one, and I get feedback from them, asking what I can do or stop doing to make their life better. They get to tell me what they hate, what matters to them, what bothers them, whatever they need to share with me. They can call it off. I cannot call it off, but they can call it off. Say, no, no, I'm fine this week. I'm busy. Don't need it. And they can bring everything there. It's not me giving them feedback. It's them giving me feedback. What I can do to make that's the key that it kind of legitimizes me in this rare situations where I need to feedback them. By that time, they had so many opportunities to criticize me and tell me what they don't like, what that I do or what they ask me to do. That provides me the right that when I need it, and my criticism account is filled up, and I can go like, listen, this time I need you to do this or to stop doing this. So this is how I'm trying to build this, and we just recently started it. It works nice, um, but results are still out there.
So it sounds like what you're saying is you give them an opportunity to give you lots of feedback to build trust so that when you need to give them feedback, it feels like a more reciprocal relationship. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so in that case where you do need to give feedback, do you do it in that one-on-one, or do you kind of schedule a separate meeting to talk to them, have a crucial conversation
Well,
with them about?
I try to give praise in public and criticism in one-on-ones. There's still speed dial. We have the Zoom phone that allows us to call each other. We have I forget what the Slack thing is called. I call people on Slack. Um, so we do talk one-on-one a lot, and I encourage the team to talk to each other a lot one-on-one synchronously, not only oh, I sent him a Slack message. When was that? 3 days ago. Or maybe he didn't see it. Call him. You know?
Hmm.
So I encourage everybody to call each other and simply ask a question. And so we have the one-on-one. And if there is something that bothers me, then I call that person and go like, listen, it just again did this, and it has this effect on me, and that bothers me. Can you please stop doing this?
I like this. This is actually something I don't know if I've heard a lot of people talk about in remote work, which is you need to have the equivalent of, stopping by someone's office to have a quick chat with them. And it sounds like you use Zoom and Slack as kind of you want it to be as low friction as possible. You want people to feel free to just grab Zoom and dial someone up and have a conversation with them right
You
there.
know, in the good old days, it wasn't only cubicles. There were also buildings like with separate offices, and then you had people on speed dial.
Right.
And there's no reason why we should not replicate this today in Slack and Zoom and what have you. To just quickly call somebody and say, listen, I'm doing this copy thing here on the website. Do you have the new prices? You don't need to send a Slack message and wait 3 hours for this. You could just call it up.
I love it. So our hour is almost up. Do you have any other words of wisdom about leadership or hiring or managing employees you want to share?
Man, I think being aware that A, you don't have all the answers and that you're figuring out it yourself every day is really, really helpful. And B, understanding that most things that we do have been solved before. There's somebody out there who knows the answer. Do what the others have done and move on. I think we spend too much time in solving things that don't really move the needle because we think that we are super smart. And for the most part, I'm sure we are. But still, save your brain cycles for stuff that really matters. And for the rest, just do what the others did. It's just, ask other founders, ask other, if you have to build a customer success framework, then ask other people who did that. For the first iteration, just copy what somebody else did, and you can improve from there.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. So thanks so much for your time. Tell us a little bit about how to go learn more about TeamFluence, how to follow you on the internet, anything
Oh,
else.
I'm super approachable. Just with me on LinkedIn. I'm easy to find, Stephen Morell. And you can find TeamFluence, http:// myteamfluence.com. And I'm not on any other social platform anymore. I will try Blue Sky. I'm off X, whatever it's called tomorrow. I'm not on Facebook anymore. I'm not on Insta. Really, like my wonderful girlfriend sends me dog videos on Insta that I watch like once a month.
Yeah,
But I'm on LinkedIn.
great. Thanks so much. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks for having me.